The people of the play. Orlando. The youngest son of Sir Roland de Boys, Orlando is, in many respects, the hero of the play. Though cheated of his inheritance by his older brother, Oliver, and therefore uneducated and disadvantaged, he succeeds in the beginning of the play at winning both a wrestling match and Rosalind's affection. Passionate and loving, he cares deeply for his servant Adam, and composes countless, bad though passionate, poems about his beloved Rosalind. He is educated on the subject of love by Rosalind, who is in disguise and whom he thinks is a man throughout the play, and at the end he proves his moral strength when he courageously fights a lioness to save the life of his previously cruel brother. Duke Senior. Duke Senior is Rosalind's father and the rightful duke of the land. Before the action of the play, his brother Duke Frederick banished him from the land, forcing him to seek exile in the forest of Arden. He lives there with faithful lords and attendants and generally keeps a positive outlook, embracing his circumstances, however unfortunate. His kindness toward Orlando and Adam demonstrates his generosity. The goodness of his character is rewarded in the end of the play by his daughter's return and Duke Frederick's renewal of his rule. Duke Frederick. Duke Frederick is the brother of Duke Senior and the usurper of his throne. While he initially allows Rosalind, Duke Senior's daughter, to remain in the company of his own daughter, Celia, he then forces her, too, to leave court on a seeming whim. Then, when he finds that Celia is missing and might be with Orlando, he forces Oliver to bring Orlando back to court at the threat of death. Frederick is a forceful ruler who often seems to assert his power just because he can. In the end, however, he undergoes a spiritual transformation after meeting a religious man on the road and gives the dukedom back to Duke Senior, its deserving holder. Oliver. The oldest son of Sir Roland de Boys, Oliver harbors an irrational hatred for his brother Orlando. He deprives him of his inheritance and education and plots to burn his house down. When ordered by Duke Frederick to find his brother, Oliver ventures into the forest of Arden, where Orlando saves his life by fighting off a lioness, thereby inspiring in him a change of character. He becomes more loving and less spiteful, improvements that are demonstrated by his instant and profound love for Celia when she is dressed as Aliena, despite her uncivil shepherdess's exterior. He and Celia are eventually married. Rosalind. Duke Senior's daughter, Rosalind, is the voice of reason and wisdom, and the heroine of the play. When Duke Frederick finally forces her to abandon the court as he did her father, she and Celia go looking for Duke Senior, Rosalind dressed as Ganymede. Rosalind is clever and cunning, and in the end of the play she acts as a prudent judge of love, articulating the characters' romantic associations and arranging them in sensible marriages, including the joining of herself and Orlando. She is not altogether above becoming passionate, and a bit ridiculous regarding her love for Orlando, however. Celia. The daughter of Duke Frederick, Celia cares inordinately for her cousin Rosalind and consistently proves her selfless generosity. After insisting that her father allow Rosalind to stay in court with her, she promises that Rosalind can inherit her father's throne when Duke Frederick dies. Celia then risks her own safety and family loyalty by accompanying Rosalind into the forest of Arden after Rosalind is banished. Her capacity for romantic love, too, is proven at the end by her engagement with Oliver. Jacques. A faithful lord to Duke Senior, Jacques has an exaggeratedly melancholy disposition and is a devoted though cynical observer of the world that surrounds him. His meeting with Touchstone inspires him to become a fool so that he may make use of his critical eye. However, Jacques' extreme melancholy often seems to indicate a degree of foolishness rather than the counterintuitive wisdom of the true fool. In the end of the play, his consistently external observing position is further confirmed by his decision to join Duke Frederick in the monastery. Le Beau. Le Beau is a courtier of Duke Frederick. He is a gossip, excited about wrestling, and thinks that Celia and Rosalind would greatly enjoy seeing Charles break people's ribs. He is honorable enough to warn Orlando to flee from Duke Frederick after his victory over Charles, and correctly predicts that the usurping duke will soon cease to be friendly to his niece. Corin. Corin is an old shepherd in the forest of Arden. He does not own the sheep he tends, as he is another man's worker. When a young man learns that Corin's employer is selling his house and livelihood from under him and offers to buy it and continue Corin's employment, the old man is happy to act as intermediary in the sale. He is a realist and does not consider himself any worse than a greater man, recognizing that different levels of society require different ways of being, and being perfectly content with the ways required by his shepherd's life. He does not let himself get overly drawn to Touchstone's games of wit. Silvius. Silvius is a young shepherd desperately in love with Phoebe and unwilling to believe that the aged can possibly understand his torment. He woos Phoebe poetically, which is unfortunate as she has no taste for metaphor. He is willing to do all she commands, including deliver a letter that he presumes to be angrily written to an insulting young man. He is appalled to discover that Phoebe has fallen for said young man. He can catechize what love is when required. Touchstone/Phoebe. Our production combines Touchstone, Duke Frederick's jester, and Phoebe, a dark-featured, black-haired, large-eyed shepherdess beloved by Silvius. Touchstone. So fond of Celia that he is willing to abandon the court to follow her to the forest, for all that he does not enjoy rural life. His folly is based on a solid ground of common sense, for he will have little to do with the high-flying phrases of love surrounding him, much preferring to mock poetry and, well, not in our production, but to woo Audrey for determinedly physical reasons. He hopes to marry her with the help of Sir Oliver Martext, for the very reason that it will be easy to break the wedding on the grounds of an incompetent ceremony once he's had what he wants from the beautiful goatherd. He mocks Jacques by imitation without the latter realizing it, and attempts to debate matters with all comers, though Corin manages to defeat him by refusing to play along. His greatest gift is perhaps his ability to see both sides of an argument, but this does not mean that he is fair. He is not above using his courtly ways to mock and overawe simpler folk, particularly when he threatens William. In many ways, he is Jacques' non-melancholic mirror. Phoebe. Phoebe takes Silvius's metaphors literally and is insulted by them, has a sarcastic edge to her tongue, and is not afraid to use it. She falls completely in love with a young man who insults her for being too proud and uses Silvius to deliver a letter to him for her. She cannot understand why Ganymede will not return her feelings until the end of the play, when it turns out that Ganymede is actually a woman. Having promised to wed Silvius if she ever refused Ganymede, she accepts to do so. Charles/Jacqueline de Bois. Our production combines Charles, the Duke's wrestler, and Jacques de Bois, turning him into a her as Jacqueline de Bois. Charles is an honorable fellow. He comes to dissuade Oliver from letting Orlando participate in the wrestling that day. As his reputation is at stake, he refuses to be gentle with any challenger and thinks it only fair to warn a gentleman of the fact. Convinced by Oliver that if he does anything other than kill Orlando, the latter will poison him, he decides to fight him as best he can, and to give up wrestling if he does not win. Orlando beats him, and what he does with the rest of his life is not recorded. Jacqueline, formerly Jacques de Bois, is the second son, well, in our case, now the daughter, of Sir Roland. Unlike Orlando, she is sent away to school and treated as well as she should be by Oliver. She appears at the end to announce Duke Frederick's conversion to the religious life. Amiens. Amiens is a lord attending on the exiled duke. In our production, this is played by a woman. She is a musical woman, often singing, though she attempts to get out of singing for Jacques. In conclusion, so there you have it, folks, the fast and furious dramaturgy of As You Like It. There's a lot more detailed information out there. You can pause the credits when all of this is done and see the resources from which I derived this video. Lots of good stuff. I hope that more detail about the background of As You Like It enhances your enjoyment and understanding of the production. And now, as it says in the Bible, vaya con queso.